Well, you were there in August of 2008. He came in the spring of 2010. And as you say, that started to change. Did this window dressing issue begin to arise as well at that time?
I would say when we speak in terms of window dressing, it is pretty common practice across the street to bring the leverage down at the reporting periods. I would also say—
But this is 34% higher.
I'm sorry? It did come down. I mean, it certainly was brought down at a quarter, and I'm aware of that. The point you need to be aware of that as well, if you can bring the leverage down, it reflects the liquidity of the positions. So if you can quickly bring them down, that means that don't pose a threat to the balance sheet per se. It's the leverage you can't bring down, which is the more concerning risk, which would be consistent, again, with what happened in the subprime crisis, as well as, again, with some of these other positions that were held by MF Global.
Their investments overseas in sovereign debt, I take it. When asked about the concerns you raised, Mr. Corzine testified that we allowed people to speak their minds. That was his response. And your testimony here today suggests something slightly different. You raised concerns about the positions as you laid them out to the board, and you walked them through the risk scenarios, and they were challenged as being implausible, as you said. And shortly thereafter, you were let go. But they were challenged as being implausible. Can you reconcile those two representations of what was going on in the boardroom there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part?
Well, the first part, Mr. Corzine testified that, we allowed people to speak their mind. That was his argument about what went on. But you say when you brought up these risk scenarios, you were challenged before the board that was implausible. What you were arguing was implausible, and of course, a few months later—
Yeah, I don't know if those two statements are contradictory per se. Okay. I mean, he certainly allowed me to express my opinion in the board meetings.
Okay, but was there a constructive dialogue that really raised your concerns there? Were the board members— I mean, it's one thing to raise an issue. It's another to be told by the chairman of the board, well, that's an implausible scenario. I'm just trying to reconcile those two.
Within the room, there were certainly differences of opinions within the board members on the positions themselves.
Yeah.
So they were certainly discussed.
One last question. You noted the strategy pursued by Mr. Corzine didn't match the resources of MFG. Can you expand a little bit on what you mean by that? What specifically caused the failure of MF Global, in your opinion?
Since I wasn't there, I'm not really familiar with all the specific positions that they added to the company subsequent to my departure. So I'm probably not in the best position to respond to that.
Then how about to this? You noted that the strategy pursued by Mr. Corzine did not match the resources of MFG. What did you mean by that?
You certainly need sufficient capital globally. We were operating in a number of different companies around the globe, which causes some challenges to moving around funds or capital to other entities. And when you employ a strategy, you have to make sure you do the analysis on the forward needs. They were certainly raising additional capital and what have you. So there might have been other plans to raise more funds, more capital. I'm not aware of it because I wasn't there. But it certainly presents the need to assess the strategy against the resources.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roseman.